You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Called the USA, and we fly our flag cause we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can, we're Americans.
This is Rio of Madison Rising, and you're listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening. Yeah, keep breaking the glass. We don't care. We got lots of glass. All right. Well, good evening, folks. Good to be back with you on this Wednesday night, just like always. A little programming reminder before we get rolling. Tonight after me, you get Jesse's POV, followed by the Stafford Voice, followed by America Off the Rails, and Wednesday TV, even though it's a new season, still sucks. So do yourself a favor and stay tuned right here all night and get your knowledge on. All right. I did get the lineup right, didn't I, Rick?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah. Just making sure. Rick will be back with you later for America Off the Rails, by the way. Good guy, busiest guy, hardest working guy in show business, especially now that Weinstein is out of show business. Boom. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so.
Except my casting couch is safe.
Probably still has the plastic on it.
Only way to be.
All right. Well, now that we got that problem solved, let's get down to some business, shall we? What do we got tonight? I don't even know, man. And somebody once told me they thought I was unflappable on the air. That one just got me. Okay. All right. Well, tonight we're going to start with the Iran nuke deal. And, excuse me, glasses falling off. And there's been a lot of hubbub about it lately. And quite frankly, a lot of people were jumping the gun when they heard that President Trump was not going to recertify the Iran deal. And they thought that he was killing the deal, which is in fact not accurate. So we're going to dig into that a little bit, and we'll see where it takes us. So again, Trump announced last Friday that he will not recertify the Iran deal, and has directed his administration to work with Congress to address what he identified as serious flaws in the deal. Now, if Congress and the administration are unable to reach a solution, the Iran deal very much likely would be terminated. In Trump terms, very much likely. So, when the agreement was reached in 2015, Congress passed the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act to ensure that Congress's voice would be heard on this deal. Among other conditions, this law requires the president or his designee to certify that the suspension of sanctions under the deal is appropriate and proportionate to measure, and other measures taken by Iran to terminate its illicit nuclear program. Now, President Trump stated that based on the factual record he has put forward, he is announcing that the United States cannot and will not make this certification. And therefore, he's directing his administration to work closely with Congress and the allies of the United States to address the deal's serious flaws so that the Iranian regime can never threaten the world with nuclear weapons. Now, these include the deal's sunset clauses that in just a few years will eliminate key restrictions on Iran's nuclear program that are already not being followed anyway, so the sunset restrictions really mean nothing. We all know that they're full bore and developing and enriching uranium to higher weapons grade degrees. This is not anything that's a secret. The flaws in this deal also include insufficient enforcement and near total silence on Iran's missile programs. The president added that Congress has already begun working on ways to address those problems. Key House and Senate leaders are drafting legislation that would amend the Iran Nuclear Review Act to strengthen enforcement, prevent Iran from developing an
I don't know, brother. All of a sudden, I'm losing.
The Obama administration. You're losing me?
Yeah, it seems to be back under control now, but there for a minute you were gone.
Okay. Well, that wouldn't shock me. My internet service provider has sent warning messages out to us about sunspots and interruptions in service. So if that happens, folks, I apologize. I'll get back with you as quick as I can. So the Obama administration lifted economic sanctions on Iran just before what would have been the total collapse of their regime through the Iran nuclear deal in 2015, also known as the JACPOA, or Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Explain the flaw, which included giving the regime billions of dollars that could be used to finance terrorism. And he did do that. The nuclear deal threw Iran's dictatorship a political and economic lifeline, providing urgently needed relief from the intense domestic pressure the sanctions had created. It also gave the regime an immediate financial boost of over $100 billion its government could use to fund terrorism and their nuclear research. The regime also received a massive cash settlement of $1.7 billion from the United States, a large portion of which was physically loaded onto an airplane and flown to Iran in cash. Just imagine the sight of those huge piles of money being hauled off by the Iranians waiting at the airport. I wonder where that money went, said Trump. Worst of all, the deal allows Iran to continue developing certain elements of its nuclear program, and importantly, in just a few years, as key restrictions disappear, Iran can sprint towards a rapid nuclear weapons breakout. In other words, we got weak inspections in exchange for no more than purely short-term and temporary delay in Iran's path to nuclear weapons. And that was the crux of the deal to begin with, folks. We knew it was a bad deal. We knew it when John Kerry was over there negotiating it and folding like a cheap chair, buckling like a cheap belt. It doesn't matter how you want to describe it. It was a flat cave-in by the Obama administration, capitulating to the demands of Iran. For what? What was it that Barack Obama and John Kerry thought that we got out of this deal. It's certainly, they knew for a fact it wasn't going to be the halting of their nuclear program over there. That was ridiculous. They were importing the higher end centrifuges for spinning the uranium and getting a purer yield while the negotiations were going on. We knew good and damn well they weren't going to back off. So what was it that we supposedly got other than the shaft? So what is the purpose of a deal that at best only delays Iran's nuclear capability for a short period of time? This, as the President of the United States said, is unacceptable. In other countries, they think in terms of 100-year intervals, not just a few years at a time. The saddest part of the deal for the United States is that all the money was paid up front, which is unheard of, unless it's the Obama administration, rather than at the end of the deal when they have shown they've played by the rules, which, normally that's what's done. But as Trump said, that's why we are where we are. The president also outlined multiple ways that Iran has violated the agreement. For example, on 2 separate occasions, they've exceeded the limit of 130 metric tons of heavy water. Until recently, the Iranian regime has also failed to meet our expectations in its operation of advanced centrifuges. Oh, who mentioned that? The Iranian regime has also intimidated international inspectors into not using the full inspection authorities that the agreement calls for. Iranian officials and military leaders have repeatedly claimed they will not allow inspectors onto military sites, even though the international community suspects some of those sites were part of the clandestine nuclear weapons program. In addition, many think Iran is dealing with North Korea. I think it's more than a thinking. I think they actually have evidence of that. The United States intelligence community has been ordered to thoroughly analyze and report their findings beyond what they have already reviewed in that respect. The president has developed a new strategy on Iran, which includes working with U.S. allies to counter the regime's destabilizing activity and support for terrorist proxies in the region. Next, the Trump administration is looking to place additional sanctions on the regime to block their financing of terror. Next, they want to address the regime's proliferation of missiles and weapons that threaten its neighbors, global trade, and freedom of navigation. And finally, they want to deny the regime all paths to nuclear weapons. Now, I'm sure it'll get a little more specific than those general topics, but that's a good place to start. And to this end, the president is authorizing the Treasury Department to impose tough sanctions on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps for its support of terrorism and to apply sanctions to its officials, agents, and affiliates. Now, if you were with me last week, we actually talked about the IRGC and how they were threatening the United States if we imposed sanctions. And the IRGC, as a reminder, told basically the world via the media over there that if we imposed sanctions on them, that we had better be prepared to move all of our personnel a minimum of 2,000 kilometers away. And if you remember also, we talked about 2,000 kilometers being the range of their missiles right now. So that's the IRGC for you. Whatever. They're threatening us now. And basically the Revolutionary Guard is the Iranian Supreme Leader's corrupt personal terror force and militia. It has hijacked large portions of Iran's economy, seized massive religious endowments to fund war and terror abroad. This includes arming the Syrian dictator Bashir al-Assad, supplying proxies and partners with missiles and weapons to attack civilians in the region, and even plotting to bomb a popular restaurant right here in Washington, D.C. Well, right there in Washington, D.C. I'm not in D.C. I live in a much cooler place. Anyway, President Trump also called on allies to join the United States in taking strong actions to curb Iran's continued dangerous and destabilizing behavior, including thorough sanctions outside the Iran deal that target the regime's ballistic missile program in support for terrorism and all of its destructive activities, in which there are many. Finally, on the grave matter of Iran's nuclear program, since the signing of the nuclear agreement, the regime's dangerous aggression has only escalated. At the same time, it has received massive sanctions relief while continuing to develop its missile program. Iran has entered into lucrative business contracts with other parties to the agreement. That would be Russia, and that would also likely be North Korea. And we could probably find a few other people that are in this deal too, like maybe even China. But anyway, that's where we stand on the Iran nuke deal and what's going on and the new direction that the new administration is putting forward. I guess we'll see where this goes, because the deadline for the negotiations is coming up pretty quick. Congress and the administration have to get this stuff settled by the law that Congress passed. So that's where we are with it. So let's leave the Middle East and let's come a little closer to home. And this president, say what you will, like him, don't like him. Again, you know how I feel already. I'm not in either camp. I just want my president to do good. I want my president to follow the Constitution. I want my president to enforce our laws and do the right thing by the American people. That's what I want from any president, regardless of party affiliation. So say what you will about this guy. He's busy. The fact that I think he's 71 now, 71, that a man of this age can maintain the type of schedule that he maintains, it's rather impressive. And for those of you that don't know, I saw there was a lot of hubbub about Hillary breaking her toe when she fell. But did you know that it wasn't really a fall? She didn't just trip and break her toe. She blacked out. Okay? She blacked out right after a public appearance over in Europe. And that's when she fell and broke her toe, is during the blackout. So let's go back to the campaign trail when Hillary had her little blackouts and falling down episodes, and they just kind of poo-pooed the whole thing away as she had the flu. I think we're seeing right now there's probably something a little more going on than the flu. Now, whether we'll actually get to find out what that is one day, I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think she would ever be willing to lay that out there for the public. But again, it's obvious that there are health concerns with Hillary Clinton, and if she can't maintain her book signing schedule, how could she ever maintain the office of the presidency if her health is in that kind of condition? Just something to think about. So anyway, closer to home, the Trump administration's decision to withdraw from the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization comes 33 years after President Reagan left the same group amid concerns about mismanagement and an agenda viewed as corrosively anti-Western. Shortly before Reagan pulled out of the group in 1984, UNESCO planned to set up a New World Information Order to counteract what it said was a Western-dominated flow of information. It proposed that journalists be licensed and an international code of press ethics be established. There's a lot of people that might actually fight for that right now. Who knows? But critics called the agency a mouthpiece for pro-Soviet sentiment. President Bush took the U.S. back into the Paris-based body in 2003, saying it had made important reforms under the then Japanese Director General, who had taken the helm in '99. But over the decade and a half since its historically biggest funder returned, UNESCO has, if anything, taken an even more troubling direction, seen particularly in its blatantly politicized stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israel on Friday welcomed the U.S. decision and announced that it too will leave UNESCO. Lack of transparency and systemic weakness were cited as their reasons. In an announcement of the decision to withdraw for a second time, the State Department cited 3 issues. They were concerns with mounting arrears, the need for reforms, and the continuing Israeli bias. The need for reforms was highlighted again late last year when a British government review of its funding to multilateral organizations criticized UNESCO for a lack of transparency and systemic weakness in the management of core funding and organizational effectiveness. Of all the international organizations assessed in the review, UNESCO alone received the score of weak, and the government warned that its funding to UNESCO was in jeopardy. Now, UNESCO Director General Irina Bokova, however, dismissed the criticism, saying that the report was based on flawed methodology and underestimated the agency's achievements. For years, Islamic states, supported by allies that include some of the world's most repressive regimes, current executive board members include Iran, Qatar, Russia, China, Algeria, Sudan, and Vietnam, have redirected UNESCO's agenda in support of the Palestinian cause, targeting in particular Jewish historical heritage in areas claimed by the Palestinians for a future independent state. The process picked up momentum after UNESCO in 2011 became the first UN agency to admit, quote-unquote, Palestine, a political entity lacking national sovereignty, as a full member. That decision cost the agency dearly, since U.S. laws passed in 1990 and 1994 prohibit federal funding for the United Nations or any specialized agency thereof which accords the Palestine Liberation Organization the same standing as member states, and for any affiliated organization of the United Nations which grants full membership as state to any organization or group that does not have the internationally recognized attributes of statehood. Pretty specific law. And so where does that leave us since those laws were passed back in 90 and 94? Well, that leaves, technically speaking, because we're not allowed to participate with federal funding, that leaves us, according to UNESCO, $542.5 million in arrears. Now, considering how much we've most likely paid into UNESCO and the United Nations as a whole, the balancing act would probably have us still ahead of the game compared to the rest of the world. As U.S. taxpayers accounted for 22% of UNESCO's operating budget, according to UNESCO, the funding cutoff, which the Obama administration reluctantly implemented, was a severe blow. Until the suspension, U.S. funding had amounted to some $80 million a year, plus a further $3 to $4 million a year in extra budgetary funds. So, as I stated, that leaves the United States $542.5 million in arrears on dues not paid since the cutoff, including $143.5 million assessed for the 2016-2017 biennium. Those escalating arrears were referred to in the State Department explaining the decision to withdraw. So, well, there you go. While it rattled the agency's finances, the admission of the Palestinians also cost Israel, as the Palestinian Authority was now able to use its membership the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. When Israel tried to counter the barrage, UNESCO criticized that as well. After Israel included on its own national heritage list 2 sites located in territory claimed by the Palestinians, the Hebron burial place, as well as the traditional burial site in Bethlehem of Rachel, which is Jacob's wife, UNESCO hit back, passing a resolution declaring that the 2 sites were an integral part of Palestine. The Obama administration strongly criticized such politicized measures, although each year it continued to ask Congress to provide a waiver to enable restoring UNESCO funding. Congress refused. Now, folks, we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to break in the middle of this story here and go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about voting rights on UNESCO and within the United Nations, and we'll continue this story. So do yourself a favor, stay tuned, and we'll keep getting your knowledge on right here on the Conservative Curmudgeon Show.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
America, you and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby.
All right. So when we left off, we were going to get into voting rights on UNESCO and why this is all mattering. Look, folks, if you think that pulling out of UNESCO is just a little thing, maybe on the surface it is, but this is like this is a precursor in leveraging either against the United Nations to be a little more what they're supposed to be, or possibly even a precursor of telling the United Nations to get bent and take off and pulling the U.S. out altogether. I mean, I'm sure that there's a real estate developer or two around New York that wouldn't mind redeveloping that property into something much nicer than the United Nations building that's sitting there. That's quite a complex they have there. So anyway, the funding freeze, as we were talking about, resulted in the U.S. losing its voting rights in UNESCO's 195-member General Conference in 2013. According to the UNESCO Constitution, a member state loses its vote if the total amount of contributions due from it exceeds the total amount of contributions payable by it for the current year and the immediately preceding calendar year. The Obama administration and other proponents of of engagement with the UN pointed to that loss of vote in arguing for the restoration of funding. The United States was not, however, prevented from membership in the more important executive board. In fact, the U.S. has held a seat on the 58-member board since 2015. Now, back to Bokova, the Director General here of UNESCO, she said in a statement that she deplored the U.S. withdrawal decision, listing areas of UNESCO activity which are in line with the United States' interest and priorities, including protecting heritage sites in the Middle East in the face of terrorist attacks, promoting literacy, Holocaust education, education for women, and press freedom. Now, tell me something, folks. The United Nations Education, Science, whatever the CO stands for. We said that earlier, but so they're promoting everything that we already have in this country. What are they promoting it to? Who are they promoting it to? And how are they promoting it? And how do they think they're being effective if we're living in a world where in Saudi Arabia, women will get to start driving sometime in 2018? Surely they're not taking credit for that decision. So anyway, at the time when conflicts continue to tear apart societies across the world, it's deeply regrettable for the United States to withdraw from the United Nations. This is Bokova talking here. If only we were withdrawing from the United Nations. But anyway, she says it's regrettable for the United States to withdraw from the United Nations agency promoting education for peace and protecting culture under attack. Yeah, they did such a great job of stopping ISIS from attacking cultural centers as they rampaged through the Middle East. She said, "This is why I regret the withdrawal of the United States. This is a loss to UNESCO." Yeah, a huge loss to UNESCO financially. This is a loss to the United Nations family. This is a loss for multilateralism. Get that, folks? Multilateralism. This is a word you're going to need to be looking for in the future. This is what the left is going to start using instead of globalism. They're going to call it lateralism or multilateralism. Same thing. Same exact thing. Now, were these all the controversies with UNESCO? No, of course not. UNESCO controversies have not been limited to its dealing Israel and Palestinian heritage issues. Others during the Obama administration included a 2011 decision to grant an award sponsored by an African dictator. U.S.-led pressure eventually stymied the attempt to name the award for Equatorial Guinea's Teodoro Obiang, but he continued to fund and to be closely associated with the UNESCO Equatorial Guinea International Prize for Research in Life Sciences. A decision in 2013 to add the writings of Che Guevara to UNESCO's Memory of the World Register, which is meant to collate and celebrate some of the human race's most significant heritage. A 2012 decision to establish a UNESCO chair at the Islamic University of Gaza, an institution with close links to Hamas. Another 2011 decision reappointing Syria to a committee dealing with human rights. That's right, you heard that right, human rights. This is a country that gasses its own people. The leadership of this country gasses its own people, and that we're going to appoint them to a committee dealing with human rights. A U.S.-led effort to expel Syria from the committee failed in favor of a watered-down resolution that criticized the Assad regime for abuses but did not call for its removal. A plan to allow Iran to host UNESCO's annual World Philosophy Day in 2010. Pressure from the U.S. and others, Bokova disassociated the agency from the Tehran event. So again, what is it that we gain by being part of this? I mean, if they're taking our money and already steering things in another direction that we disapprove of based on our Western culture and morals, why should we be a part of it at all? Why not just pull our money away from them? Let them suffer. They need the money more than we need them. And I have the same position on the United Nations. They need the United States a whole lot more than we need them. Now, does that make me an isolationist? No. We still have allies out there. We can still do business with other countries that are part of the United Nations. I'm not saying to just build a 100-foot high wall around the whole country and cut off all communications outside of the country. That's not at all what I'm saying. So before you start adding me out there on Twitter on this, use your head. Knee-jerk reactions are not the best thing. Think about what's been said. Think about what I'm bringing you. Do some homework. And then if you disagree with me, come at me. We can talk. It's all good. Now, I saw this next piece, and it really disturbed me, and I really wanted to get this brought out because it touches me very deeply as a veteran. So, if you were asked what you thought the readiness level of the United States military was, what would you say? Now, before you jump in, for this exercise, we have 5 choices. Okay, so just play along with me at home. We start with very weak, weak, marginal, strong, and very strong. Now, think about each branch of the military. Think about where we're engaged, how we're engaged. I hope you know how and where we're engaged right now militarily. And where would your answer fall? Now, most of you out there, you're probably thinking, I'm no expert, so I can't even make an educated guess at this because I don't know where all we are deployed around the world, where we're engaged and where we're not engaged. And so anyway, that should be the bulk of you. I mean, I would think. I keep up with it because, like I said, it affects me. It's near and dear to my heart as a veteran. So let me refer you to the latest report from the Heritage Foundation Center for National Defense. The authors are, in fact, experts, and their conclusions are quite sobering. So what I'm referencing here is the 2018 Index of U.S. Military Strength. The editors take a hard, detailed look at all the facts, and using all the scale mentioned above, they rate the Navy and the Air Force as marginal, and the Army and the Marines as weak. How is this possible, you ask? Well, it's simple. It really is. And we're going to go into it. For years, we've been asking our military to do more with less. They've taken on more work, more missions, all while enduring budget cuts that eat into their ability to modernize and equip themselves properly. Do that long enough, and even the best military in the world will start to feel the effects. It's not a question of dedication or determination. Our military is all volunteer, and that is still what makes it the greatest military in the world. But even the greatest military in the world has its limits. Our soldiers and sailors are doing the best they can, and we should be proud of their professionalism, by and large. But if we don't meet them halfway with the money they need to do all the work they're being asked to do, should we be surprised when we find out that they're running on fumes? There's a common theme across the services. This index, this index indicates, as you would think it would, one of forced degradation resulting from many years of underinvestment, poor execution of modernization programs, and the negative effects of budgetary sequestration. It takes an impact, it causes an impact on readiness and capacity. There's no two ways around it. So how does one best judge the right size, strength, and capability of our armed forces? Well, this index used a formula long embraced by successive presidential administrations, Congresses, and Department of Defense staffs, the ability to handle two major wars at the same time. This is why readiness issues rarely become apparent to the public until it's too late. It's like a household living paycheck to paycheck with no savings or a line of credit. Everything seems okay until an emergency comes along, right? You get that. And as the index also demonstrates, such an emergency is hardly a remote possibility. These guys also assess the various threat levels to U.S. interests around the world, Asia, the Middle East, Europe, etc., and find some troubling storm clouds on the horizon. All of the 6 noted threat actors in the index, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and terrorist groups in the Middle East and Afghanistan, now rank quote-unquote high on the scale of threats to U.S. interests, with Russia coming close to being elevated to severe from its past score of high. Russia and China are the most worrisome. Both are modernizing and expanding their offensive military capabilities in ways that indicate it won't be long before they could pose a more serious threat than they already do. I hardly need to remind everyone of North Korea's nuclear ambitions. The latest tests by Kim Jong-un's bellicose regime clearly hint at North Korea's ability to reach targets in the United States and among its allies. In short, the world is becoming more dangerous, even as America's ability to counter that danger continues to degrade. It doesn't have to be this way, though. There's still time for Congress and the President to turn the ship before it hits an iceberg. Yes, there have been some positive steps taken recently to fund readiness more robustly, but they haven't overturned the Budget Control Act that caps defense spending. And they haven't yet shown a real commitment to fund the military at levels necessary to modernize aging equipment and make the military capable of meeting its many obligations, not the least of which is the safety and security of the people of the United States. Now, President Reagan often spoke of peace through strength. Strength is clearly ebbing. Will peace soon follow? I hope not. I truly hope not. All right. Well, sticking with the military. Yeah. Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl told a military judge on Monday that he is pleading guilty to desertion and misbehavior before the enemy. I understand that leaving my post was against the law, Bergdahl said. At the time, I had no intention of causing search and recovery operations, he added, saying that now he does understand that his decision to walk off his remote post in Afghanistan in 2009 prompted efforts to find him. Bergdahl, who's 31 now, is charged with endangering his comrades by walking away from his post. Despite his plea, the prosecution and defense have not agreed to a stipulation of facts in the case. According to one of his lawyers, Major Oren Gleich, which is an indication that they did not reach a deal to limit his punishment. Gene Fidel, a civilian lawyer for Bergdahl, made the comment they are not commenting on the case. So his comment was no comment. Great. Why bother even including that? The misbehavior charge carries a maximum penalty of life in prison, while the desertion charge is punishable by up to 5 years. See, I don't get that. I really don't get that. I'm sorry, I'm somebody that's been over there. I know what it's like, and I don't get why the desertion charge is only punishable by up to 5 years. The guilty plea brings the highly politicized saga closer to an end 8 years after his disappearance in Afghanistan set off search missions by scores of his fellow service members. Then President Barack Obama was criticized by Republicans for the 2014 Taliban prisoner swap that brought Bergdahl home, while President Donald Trump harshly criticized Bergdahl then candidate Trump harshly criticized Bergdahl on the campaign trail. The serious wounds to service members who searched for Bergdahl are still expected to play a role in his sentencing, as well as the testimony of the family members of men that were lost in searching for him. The guilty pleas allow him to avoid a trial, but he still faces a sentencing hearing that's expected to start on October 23rd. Bergdahl's 5 years of captivity by the Taliban and its allies will also likely factor into what punishment he receives. Why, I have no idea. You wander from your post, you knowingly and willingly expose the rest of the men that are stationed there with you to harm's way while it is your duty to be on station. I don't care what happened to you in the 5 years you were gone. You deserve every bit of it. Bergdahl, who's from Haley, Idaho, previously chose to have his case heard by a judge alone rather than a jury. Legal scholars have said that several pretrial rulings against the defense have given prosecutors leverage to pursue stiff punishment against Bergdahl. Perhaps most significant was the judge's decision in June to allow evidence of serious wounds to service members who searched for Bergdahl at the sentencing phase. The judge ruled that a Navy SEAL and an Army National Guard sergeant wouldn't have wound up in separate firefights that left them wounded had they not been searching for Bergdahl. The defense was also rebuffed in an effort to prove President Trump had unfairly swayed the case with scathing criticism of Bergdahl, including suggestions of harsh punishment. The judge wrote in February's ruling that Trump's campaign trail comments were disturbing and disappointing, but did not constitute unlawful command influence by the soon-to-be commander-in-chief. Well, of course it didn't constitute unlawful command influence. He wasn't in command of anything other than a campaign. So defense attorneys have acknowledged that Bergdahl walked off his base without authorization. Bergdahl himself told the general during the preliminary investigation that he left intending to cause alarm and draw attention to what he saw as problems with his unit. He was soon captured. But the defense team has argued that Bergdahl can't be held responsible for a long chain of events that included many decisions by others on how to conduct the searches. The military probe of Bergdahl began soon after he was freed from captivity on May 31st, 2014, in exchange for 5 Taliban prisoners. Facing Republican criticism, President Obama noted that the U.S. doesn't leave its service members behind. He also forgot that we don't negotiate with terrorists, but I won't nitpick on the details too much. Bergdahl has been assigned to desk duty at a Texas Army base while his case unfolds. I think the case is all but unfolded. I think the only thing that Bergdahl will be doing in the future is imprinting license plates and making little teeny tiny rocks out of much bigger rocks. And hopefully it will be for a term no less than 25 years. I wouldn't have a problem if they incarcerated him for the rest of his natural life. But anyway, other tidbits of news, I don't have details yet, but it did sneak out this week that the Trump administration is definitely geared up and very strongly looking at reforming the welfare system in our country. There were no details given. Again, I will be following this story and will bring you more info on it just as soon as it becomes available. We are back around to the top of the hour, folks. Whoo! We got it. We did it. Coming up next, Jesse's POV, followed by the Stafford Voice, and then nightcapped by America Off the Rails with Rowdy Rick Robinson. Do yourself a favor and stay right here all night, folks. If you like the show, tell your friends. If your friends like the show, you need new ones, but they and you are welcome here every week with me on the Conservative Curmudgeon Show. Thanks for being here, and God bless everybody.
I hate this place. Nothing works here. The medications don't work. I've been here for 7 years.